You jibber jab, bamboozle, nuka noozle, bippity bop, she called. You jibber jab, bamboozle, nuka noozle, bippity bop, she called. I mean, you keep on talking, but you don't know where to turn it off.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Jessica Corry, and you're watching Independent Thinking. When most people think about eminent domain or condemnation, they think about roads or highways or even a hospital or a school. But what about open space? Should the government be able to take your property to make a bike trail so somebody else can ride on it? That's the question we'll be discussing tonight as we focus on a Boulder case and also the larger implications of eminent domain in the 21st century. Tonight we have two fabulous guests. First we have Bob Hoban, a well-regarded Denver land use attorney, and for full disclosure, you are also the co-author of our most recent issue paper at the Independence Institute on Property Rights. That's right. From Kilo to Telluride and Beyond, a 5-year assessment of eminent domain in Colorado, and we would encourage you all to check that out.
It's an excellent paper.
An excellent paper. And the next person we have with us is Gary Zimmermand. Thank you so much, Mr. Zimmermand, for being here.
Thank you.
Gary is with the No Trail Alliance. It's a coalition of 160 Boulder County families that are fighting the county's effort, and I guess it's now the Transportation Department's efforts to condemn parts of their property to put in a trail. Gary, if you don't mind, lay out for us what the situation is in Boulder, what you're facing.
Well, what we're facing is a 13-mile indirect trail that travels from essentially the Gun Barrel area up to Lyons. It's not a direct route to Boulder. And this has been in the planning phase for approximately 30 years, the trail alignment along the water canal that exists today. And Boulder County has defined a narrow box in which they want to run this 13-mile trail, and they've come up with 3 different trail configurations that they would like to consider. They've asked for public input, and we've asked them to expand the box, so to speak, in terms of their planning process. But we've been largely ignored in that process. We don't understand why that trail has to go through this narrow box that
Now, is this a trail for recreation or is it for commuters? What would be the primary purpose for it?
Well, it's primarily for recreational. They advertise it for equestrian, bicyclists, and also hikers along the trail. But primarily it's going to be for bikers. It started out as a commuter trail, and that has shifted more towards a recreational trail from
Is this a
Boulder
paved
County.
trail, dirt trail? What does it look like?
No, it's a crushed fine stone type trail that they're going to have, and it's approximately 8 feet wide, and it'll hang on the very edge of this canal that's used to move water for the city of Boulder water supply, as well as irrigate local farmers who supply the farmers market, for example, with organic vegetables, and ranchers in the community out there.
So, Bob, let's put this into some context. How much of a problem is this, or for those people who don't believe that eminent domain is a problem, how common is it that we're seeing eminent domain being used for open space or for bike trails, what I think most people would consider to be non-traditional uses?
I think the pendulum swings back and forth on the use of eminent domain. What we saw here in Colorado recently was this Telluride case that came from our Supreme Court. And in that case, effectively, the local governments, they were emboldened, they were empowered to take property for non-traditional public uses. So here you've got a situation where the county of Boulder is going out and taking people's property for recreational uses under the guise of transportation. I think the issue here really is the county entitled to take a bike trail under the guise of transportation, or is it simply a ruse to acquire it, to use it on the recreational side of things? Because that's strictly what this will be used for.
That's an interesting question, certainly worth a test case or two. Has any state or even Colorado seen litigation over whether or not a recreational bike trail is justifiable as transportation-related condemnation?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I certainly haven't looked far and wide, but I will. But the issue here is, I think what you're seeing is when there's money in a certain agency or a certain department, the overarching government here, the county of Boulder, is trying to find ways to spend that money to suit this purpose over here when that money is devoted to, say, transportation. transportation funds will be spent for recreational purposes, to acquire property for recreational purposes. So you're seeing governments use money and conveniently use eminent domain powers inappropriately. But in terms of what happened nationwide, I don't know, and we're going to take a look at that for sure. So,
what would you say to those people who call you a NIMBY, the not in my backyard type, that this is a great thing? You know, I was just looking at Money Magazine yesterday, actually, and had a picture of the Flatirons and was talking about how this is such a great place to live. Louisville, right outside Boulder, was named the best small city in America. So you've all, so I think that the idea would be you all just need to do your part. You're a bunch of rich ranchers and farmers out there, and you don't want people to bother with you, but you want the benefits without paying the price. So what would you say to them?
Well, that's kind of a hollow argument, and the reason I say that is Boulder County has acquired over 68,000 acres, more than that, in Boulder County. 1 in 7 acres is owned by Boulder County, fee simple. They don't want to run it across their open space land, so are they considered NIMBYs for that reason?
That's a good question. And do you, is there a viable trail that would just go through the open space that they already have?
There is. Our group has reached out to various bicycle organizations as a means to try to find a solution that makes sense for this trail. If the millions of dollars need to be spent on this trail in these economic times, we think there's a better solution, and it rests west of Highway 36. The bicycle organizations would like to see that trail have more of an interesting route. This trail that they're proposing along the canal is a very flat, really kind of a boring trail for a mountain bike rider to take. It's not a direct route, so you can't really say it's a commuter trail, because when I drive to work, I go to the direct route. I don't go an indirect route and roundabout way to get to my work. And if it's truly a commuter trail, that rests along Highway 36.
Boulder is pretty, but I'm not sure
beautiful.
I'd want to meander every day just
Exactly.
to get to work.
I mean, you want to get to work in a timely manner. And if you go up to Boulder on a weekend on Highway 36, you'll see all kinds of bicyclists along Highway 36. It's a great location. And Boulder County owns extensive open space along Highway 36, west of Highway 36. Boulder City also has a bike trail that connects partway to Lyons already. So
can the county afford to do this? What's the cost estimate, or has there been one put together?
They have not provided a cost estimate, and the word that we're receiving is they don't have the money. So you ask yourself, are they looking in other budgets to try to find the money to pay for this? And that's a concern in these economic times. The money could be spent better elsewhere.
So Bob, tell, for those people out there who don't live in Boulder County and have no intention of ever getting on a mountain bike, why should they care?
well, you should care because tax dollars, your tax dollars, are being spent to provide recreational opportunities under the guise of something else. You can't go out and purchase property to say it's for commuter or for transportation uses when it's really a recreational use. You can't just call it something and have it be that. It is what it is. But I'd like to go back to what Gary said, and you raise an interesting point here. There's viable alternatives. You've got routes along 36. You can piece together property that Boulder County and the city of Boulder already owns to get this done. Eminent domain's supposed to be a tool of last resort, not
and
first
let's just
resort.
real quickly define that, because for people out there who don't know what eminent domain is, or who are still confused, under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the government cannot take your property for non-public use. They can only take your property for public use, and it can only take that property when it gives you just compensation. Of course, the big debate is what is just compensation, especially when you're talking about partial takings. He's saying 8 feet. Well, that may not be a large portion of his property, which is several acres, right?
Right, correct.
But in terms of the diminished personal value, the ability to enjoy his land, it could be more significant than the dollar value that's attached to that, correct?